Okay, so this is going to be the Words of Moses Part 8. This one is the last of this series, and it's going to be really hard because it relates to the playlist, the Double Bridles and Dark Sentences playlist, and this one right here is going to set up for the next playlist, which we'll do, which will be the Symphony of All Things, which is basically a breakdown of examples of all 8 interpretations. So when the scripture says like all things, it's signaling as a signifying word to the reader that there's 8 different interpretations there. And I'll be breaking that down, how a single train of thought or a storyline can have 8 different interpretations to it. And we've already been starting in the Words of Moses playlist. We've already been starting to put those building blocks, how that can happen with this pattern here of when we had the beginning and between and the end. So we'll get more into this on the next one, but we throughout the whole series, this is the way you want to think when you want to tunnel and begin to unspin stuff. A couple things though that over here that I have not talked about in detail yet is the but and the and. These are a riddle pattern, a construction pattern that I have some examples on the and, I have examples on the but that we got to go over because this will set us up for our next playlist. In this spinning pattern, when you see this, you're going to see how they hide stuff. So, and I have some of this already majored on in the Double Bridles and Dark Sins playlist, and I just don't have enough examples in that, which I do have some, but because I go through the scriptures of Corinthians and Romans, but I want to get into more of those in detail in the next series. So this one, we'll go over this as fast as possible, as much as I can. So if it seems like it goes too fast, don't worry about it, because we'll be majoring on that in the next playlist. But in this playlist, I'm going to get into some of the hidden stories. Before I start with those, I'm just going to kind of mention it, because this is where we're headed. The hidden stories, and it's all right here, and get all these scriptures on camera and stuff like that, these labels, is every hidden story in each book all links together. And what I mean by hidden stories is like things like what Paul did in Jerusalem. You think what Paul did was, he just went to court and looks like he's going to be, he's getting in trouble for talking about the resurrection of the dead, but in what looked like he was a sheep led to the slaughter, he was actually serving. It looked like he's weak, but that he was strong. He was going to serve Julius Caesar, right? And because he had basically built up on his way using power of attorney, sending Timotheus out, writing all these hidden messages in all his letters as he did his 4 journeys, and he was building up basically like a syndicate, a commonwealth, attaching it to the common wealth of Israel through Jerusalem, and using basically courts of equity and chancery to build a bridge out of the Roman civil court system and over into the common law, using the things of nothing, the person, and all that stuff. I'm going to touch on some of those things today, those words again. But that's what he did, and what he did, this is what you have to know, is everything that was also done in the Magna Carta and the Constitution. The Constitution was made after the Magna Carta. That's what Paul was doing. You see, what Paul was undoing was everything that William the Conqueror did with the Jews in Spain, and that's called the Shitar. That has to deal with credit and debits. And also, that's how they built Tartaria and Babylon. Tartaria was in Asia. That's in Acts 16:6. That's where the Holy Ghost said, don't go there, because Tartaria was all giant buildings and stuff with genius invention in it, and it was all the stuff that the giants had, and they were in hybrids, and they were all in Asia at the time. And this is what's not major on the Bible, but this is all their stuff that they buried later and got rid of Tartaria, and now they call it like Russia. You know what I mean? So, and that was Asia back then. So the opposite of what Paul did is the Shitar. Some people call it the Seder, and that, notice tar is inside Shitar, which is Tartaria. So this is where you also get like Tartarus, which is hell, Tartarus, and tartar, like when you got gingivitis and tartar on your teeth, plaque. Plaque is from plague and tartar. So that's all the stuff gets on your teeth and everything. It's just the grossness, and that's what was basically William the Conqueror was doing that. That's what the Jews always done. What the Jews have done with William the Conqueror is what when they hijacked our nation today, when they say the Jews rule the world, this is the same thing they did with America today. Okay? That's now today it's through the British Crown, and also back then was the King of England. The King of England started that, and today it's the British Crown. But they're continuing the Shi'ar of what we know as the Babylonian dark arts today, which has the Federal Reserve and money changing and all that stuff that's today. So this is what Daniel was doing in Babylon when the people were things or captives. They were things and nothing. And Daniel was fixing their paperwork. That's what Paul did. Daniel did the same thing, but he did it through Darius the Mede and Cyrus. It's in Isaiah, he talks about Cyrus, and Daniel talks about Darius. And so that's the same thing. They networked with the kings and lords of that day, the same way the Jews worked with William the Conqueror to enslave people. This is like what the Pharisees and Sadducees were doing through the scribes and lawyers, and all that, and what's called the tax collectors. They're setting up that system that was in Rome over there in Spain. It's the same thing. And what Daniel was doing is undoing all that stuff going to the kings. That's how Medo-Persia was able to take Babylon, because they all were changing their statuses back, which all that has to do with the registry that's in Luke 2 through the census. The census is all done through the decrees, and then all those decrees were undone of Caesar, were undone by the decrees and ordinances of the apostles. That's what they did. Okay, that's also what Mordecai did in the book of Esther, through Esther. That's what he was in the King's Gate. That's all the information. In the King's Gate is where the trusts were. So he knew all this stuff. There's hidden stories in Esther. Ezra and Nehemiah did the same thing, coming out of it, of Babylon. And this is what was done to Joseph. We're going to get into this hopefully today. But what was done to Joseph when he was a kid, and we'll go over these scriptures, was later undone by Moses, because Joseph had his status changed. He was sold as a slave. But Joseph used that, being sold into the waters and being in admiralty jurisdiction, being a person, a thing and nothing. He was able to be under Pharaoh and use Pharaoh's possessions, and he had everything. So he had to be under him and hook Pharaoh up. But in hooking Pharaoh up, he was able to save his whole nation. But when Pharaoh changed to another king of Egypt that didn't know Joseph, all the paperwork needed to be changed back by Moses. Those are the hidden stories. And we're going to go get into that. And that same process of changing one's status to go into the waters is what, Abraham Lincoln did. Well, actually incorporated America, and it was done in 1933. But now it's being undone today. And this is what we do today by the American State National process. Okay, and then lastly, what was set up by David and continued by Solomon is all the trusts. And these are all, this is what the hidden story is in all this, but it's all the same thing. This whole thing is the same thing. And there's a way to speak these words when you give consent and stuff, and there's a way to warn them, put them on notice, and you have to show it. You have to show your status. This is why that's why they always ask for a driver's license, because it shows your fallen state. But in showing, one way is the passport, but another way is the Moorish sovereigns, as they show their documents. And doing that, you show who's your lord, and that's whether they have jurisdiction or not. Okay, so that's just a big picture of what we need to get into. But before we get to there, we're going to get into the and and the but and begin to set up. So hopefully, I just wanted to paint that big picture so you know where we're headed. What is the big picture of everything? So on the but, the way it's written, there's going to be a first half of a verse, and it's going to say but, and then there's a second half of the verse. And these are dichotomy contrast. They're contrasting, they're opposite one another. You say this, but that. So, but really when you flip the first half and you flip the second half, they're an and they actually go together. So I'm going to show that pattern real quick. So over in Ecclesiastes 9:11, he says, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance happens to them all. So what happens is all this is this former, remember that's the former, and that's the first half, and the second half is like right where it says, but time and chance happen to them all. That's the second half. And you think, see, all of this is actually true according to this, but time and chance happen to them all. But the hidden thing is, it seems like there's two opposite things going on, but really they're together. You have to know what time and chance is first. Time is like an evil time. You're your time of peace or time of trouble, time of evil or time of good in your nation. And times are controlled by the high places. So if someone's controlling the high places, other than you, and they're evil, then the race isn't to the swift and the battle isn't to the strong. All that is true, because what happens is God makes it to rain on the just and the unjust. And so whoever's in charge, they may make an evil time happen and you didn't do nothing. You were running fast, but and you're swift and everything, but you're losing that race, you're losing that battle, and you're wise and everything, but you're not getting your bread. You're not strong anymore, and your riches are being taken away because the times are evil. Your nation's evil and it's doing stuff. That's how that works. Time and chance happens to them all. If time and bad times and a bad chance, and chance is what it is related to time. Chance means it's nothing that you did by sowing and reaping, but you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. That's how God makes it to rain on the just and the unjust. That's chance. Also, chance relates to courts of chancery, where you're in someone's hand. So that relates to time. So this isn't a direct hand, a direct link. This is an indirect link. It's something that you'll see time and chance in the book of Job all over the place. It's like there's certain things that happen to Job and Job's family because of time and chance. Okay, that's as relating to the blessing and the curse. But mainly the story shows the curse. Okay, the hidden story of Job is the blessing, how he got everything back at the end. And I have videos on all that stuff. But, so now you see that this statement is true. The race is not to the swift, the battle is not to the strong, and so on and so forth, nor yet favor to men of skill, but time and chance. Because when time and chance happens, it doesn't matter your skill, it doesn't matter your wisdom, it doesn't matter your strength, because of the positioning and the placement that's going on. But time and chance, now there's an and all works together, and it's the opposite. You flip it. The race is to the swift. The battle is to the strong. And so on and so forth. Favor is to men of skill, because skill and strength and knowing what the race and the battle is, all that stuff has to do with time and chance. If you get in position, and all sense the righteous bear rule, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people mourn. When you are in authority, that the time is the battle. Gaining the time and redeeming the time, because the days are evil, is the battle in the race. And you have to be strong and swift to get there. See how it all goes together now? So then what happens is you may get in, redeem your money system, and there's some wicked people by chance, because they was in a particular position. God made it to rain on the just and the unjust. They got blessed because of you. Isn't that great? But then they'll know who the Lord is. They'll know why they got saved and got protected. And this is what's going on in our nation now. There's people that are wicked in this nation that just so happen, got some gold stored up, just so happen to be right place, right time, and they're not going to be carried off by debt collectors because of who's at the top now. But if the bad people would have been in charge, man, no matter how good you were, a moral person, by chance, the evil net, you're going to be snared, just like it says right here. This is one of the best examples of but. And as some other ones, I may just pick one more so you can see it. I'm going to use 2 Chronicles 19, 16. This is in the Double Bridles playlist. The same pattern. This is all Anna Butt's majored on in Proverbs, by the way. But this spinning pattern is in there, and there's, that's why it says set your house in order, or set forth thy words in order. That's what you have to do, set them in order, and there's a way to do it. You have to turn. They call it turning it, and some people call it spinning it. The media today calls it spin. You know what I mean? Like spin doctors. You got to learn how to, you have to spin it. You know what I mean? So, now I won't get into all of this here, but I want you guys to memorize some words here. It says, and he said to the judges, take heed what you do, for you judge not for man, but for the Lord, who is with you in the judgment. So there is a dichotomy here of there's man and there's the Lord. You don't judge for man, but for the Lord. And this is what he wants you to get down. Who's with you in the judgment? So this was saying this to the judges, right? So it says, wherefore now let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Take heed and do it. For there is no iniquity with the Lord our God, nor respect of persons, nor taking of gifts. So for face value, that but works perfectly. You don't judge for man, you do judge for the Lord. And judging for the Lord, he's with you in the judgment. So you have to let the fear of God, rule you, so you fear the Lord, so you do what's right, and you don't become a respecter of persons and basically take bribes. That's the face value. This but is an and if you flip this and spin this, and that's how it works. There's synonymous terms, and I'm going to solve it for you real quick, but it's only because I'm advanced and I have all this stuff down. So I have to beeline it, otherwise we'll be stuck on this for a long time to do the proof. But I can prove it, and we'll go over that in the future, and that's more for one-on-one, in debates and how that's found, because we can't put all this stuff on video, or it'll just be a long freaking video. So when we show you that you judge not for man, well, you do judge for man, because the man is supposed to be the Lord. You got to teach man what the Lord is, because God is Lord of lords, plural. This man has to be a Lord, okay? He's not going to be a person, okay? So who? This is the mystery of who. Remember who and where is he? Who is with you in the judgment? Because a man, as long as he's a who and not a what, he's a who, he should be the Lord. And what happens with man, he should be carrying his person. His person actually is a gift. That's gifts, plural, persons, plural. This gift is also can mean bribe, but it doesn't say bribe. Gifts can be bribes. That's why this is there. But gifts are persons, because you can take your person and gift it. And that's how the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. But it's given, but you got to take it. That's why you take heed, because in taking heed to do it, it is your person. What are you going to do? You got to do what you do. What is what you do? The judgment. The judgment has to do with the persons. You judge the persons, or the man's person, because when he shows you his person, which isn't it, and is not given away as a gift, he's taking that person. What it is, you judge him as a who, and that he's the Lord. And if you are set as a judge over him, because he's with you. Because if he's with you, for there is no iniquity with the Lord. Because we're all with one another. We're all one with another. So you basically, if you're a man with a person, and some judge is trying to judge you, and you're not of that judge, meaning you're not in that jurisdiction, that judge can't judge you, because you're not with the Lord our God. There's some other judge. That's what this is all saying. This is now let the fear of the Lord be upon you. How do you this is not just a moral thing like, oh, I'm afraid of God. You find out the fear of the Lord, the fear is the judgment. And the judgment has to do with you are judging the person and the man as the Lord. The Lord is the fear. If he's a Lord, you fear that because you don't want to go in. Basically, possession is 9/10 of the law. So if you're trying to take something from someone, you know what I mean, you can't, because he's the Lord of it. But if he's not the Lord, he's like this trustee, and the judge is the Lord, and this man's just a person, then this man doesn't fear the Lord. He's like giving up. He's actually given gifts of his gifts is his person. He gave his person away to those courts, and those courts now rule over you. That's all hidden in there, and I'm just solving it real quick. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's any else in here. It goes into what's called nevertheless there are good things found in thee. You find out the good things, plural, the things, plural, the good things, is the persons. They're good. Later you'll find that this word good, which is related to God, God is good and good is God, is the things, is how you write your name. Your Christian name is your person, is the gift, okay? And it goes down here, said, deal courageously. You'll find out this, we're going to get into this word deal. Deal courageously, and the Lord shall be with the good. What is the good? The good has to do with good things, and the good has to do with the fear of the Lord and the judgment. They call it the good. You think, I have to say some of this stuff real quick, you think that when it says something like the fear, through the synonymous terms, when you see the, or a something, we're going to see a gift and a thing. We're going to see that here in a second, because I'm going to go over to that in Ecclesiastes. But when you see that those are the parts, then this, like, what they're doing with those parts is the string of pearls. And so you have to know that those pearls are all different angles of the same thing. And so when you get it later in the book that they write, the book of the prophets, or whether it's the law, or whether it's the New Testament and Paul's letters, later in chapters, you'll see the synonymous terms. You got to plug that in. You got to go back. That's why you have to go back and forth. It is out of context because you have to know the construct pattern of what's called the way of a vineyard. The way of a vineyard looks like a grapevine, and which is a grapevine is a string of pearls. And you have to know all the grapes are part of the same vine. And this is how they hide things, because as you move on in conversation, you think that the topic's changing, but it's not. It's just saying it now from a different angle. That is how the Bible's written. And that's also how the same pattern, that construct pattern, is how semantics work. This teaches you, it's geometry. That's why I say geometry. It teaches you how to think and thread deeper on something, and develops your eyes. That's why I said the Word of God is alive and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, dividing asunder of the soul and spirit and joints and marrow, as a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. It teaches you discernment. And it says all things are opened and naked unto the eyes of whom we have to do. We have, just like when people say, what do I have to do with you? Because the eyes of him of whom we have to do, we're with the Lord. What I have to do with Jesus is what he has. He is his trust that he has me and I have him. And I have his eyes if he gives you the Holy Spirit, and he gives you and he illuminates the Word of God, and the Word of God opens and it makes everything naked to where you can see what that thing really is, because of the structure. And all that same structure is hidden in how they write it. And so that's like the green coding in Matrix. And I just had to say that, and I've said it before in the past and other things, but I'm just saying it briefly in this playlist because it's not a major in that. You have to watch all playlists and put them all together. Now to go to Ecclesiastes, again, I have to say he's kind of fast, but again, to major on these things, we'll never get ahead. But I can do it. This is meant to put it on record and make a big picture of it all, so we can see that what the original intentions of the scriptures are. And sorry, I lost my place over here. I don't know. Use that. Okay. So no. Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll go. We had two examples of but. Now let's go to and. Now, in and, there's a former, just like there's a first half, second half, there's a former and a latter, and they're not directly connected. Rather, they're indirectly from results of opposition and means, meaning the opposing means, to set up a third degree. And I'm going to explain what this means real quick. So, if I'm opposing my enemy, and I'm a source, or I have means, I'm now the opposing means to my opposition. So let's say someone's, trying to do crypto, and I'm like, we're going to use silver and gold. My means is the silver and gold, and now I'm opposing my opposition and their means. And what happens is, if my stronghold of my market is bigger and setting that thing up, and it's tied to debt or something like that, there's a third degree of that, a separation where, let me explain it this way, is that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so this third degree of separation, the perfect example is set up through the all caps name. When the all caps name is made to deceive you, number one, trick you into thinking that that's your name, but you're actually giving away your person through that. And it's done from the birth of the womb. It says in Job 3, but today we say it this way. It's done in the hospitals with the birth certificate. And so when you do that, you gave your person away. Now, they say you're dead at sea. When you're dead at sea, someone else has to administer your estates and trusts, and that's what they build. They build an estate and trust, and they make you chattel. They make you collateral for the debt. So they begin to print off all this money and stuff. It's the way they do it today. They would just actually make, coins out of iron and things like that back in the day. But today it's digital. We're going into digital now, and it's paper. So back then it was a denarius. That's the best example in the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That story's in there. And so what happens is there's a lord of that money system. Today's the Lord Rothschild. And so there's debt collectors when you come up short. The whole system is a scam, and that after a while, it's meant to make you come up short. So when you come up short, the people that are in charge of that nation allow their people, the ones that are chattel, to be carried off to cover the debt, because you're going to eventually come up short and you're not going to be able to pay it off, so they take you as collateral. But when you begin to change your paperwork and change your status, and you take back, because the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, you take back your gift, because you can repudiate, you can revoke, and you can, there's another word for it, basically, I can't remember, I'll think of it later, but when you revoke that contract and you repudiate, you reconvey your trust back to you, there's a reconveyance going on, then you're no longer that chattel. So what happens is, there's different ways of doing it, because you can also go into equity, and I'll just say it real quick, is that you can settle the debts through probate judge and things like that, and use your credit side to set off and swallow up the debt side, and you can balance the books that way, because there's credit to that. They've been selling your number on the stock market, and that's all in Ezekiel 17, by the way. And so all these things are in the Bible, hidden in stories, but they're explained today in the American State National movement. So when you do that and you settle the debts and stuff, so to speak, the books get offset. This is what Daniel 5 says: means tekon on person, the handwriting wrote on a roll. He said, you're laid in the balances and found wanting. Because what happens is when you change people's statuses and you wake them up, and they change their state and their status, they're no longer a person. They take back their person. They now rise to be, and they call themselves a man. And they get out of the water, just and back into the land, and they become Lord, so to speak, a saint. And the judgment has come. They know the books and how it all works, the secret of it. The people that was running those estates and trusts, the crooked, they're trying to be the beneficiaries and make you the trustee. You swap that out. Now they're the trustee, and they're held responsible for the debt. So the debt collectors now come and take them away instead of you. And that's the third degree of separation. And that is basically the enemy that was going to come to me becomes now my friend, because he's going to take out my enemy. That's a big picture of how it works. And that is everywhere in here. That's what Paul did, and happens today. And this is why they want to hide this so bad, because that is literally what happened with Waco and all that stuff at that church. They'll say it's a cult, make up something, throw it in there like, oh, they're a sex cult, and so that they can justify going there and killing everyone because they're dangerous. It will end the corporation. If everyone gets a hold, of this, it literally tanks empires. This is the root to it all. Okay, so that is what I mean by that's not directly connected. So the and, this is, once you learn this, you can begin to count steps, and that's how you can figure out that third degree of separation. But I'm going to show you an example of this and. Is that in Ecclesiastes, I'm sorry, 7. Ecclesiastes 7. It says, surely oppression makes a wise man mad, and a gift destroys the heart. So for face value, you think, if someone's oppressing you, and they're wise, they're going to go crazy over this oppression and stuff. And what happens is usually wise men are in charge and like some sort of political office, and they receive bribes. If a wise man you can destroy a wise man's heart if he receives this gift and receives bribes, right? This is kind of this moral compass thing. This is after the same pattern as like Proverbs. But then it says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. So it just sounds like a nice little fluffy yay. And by the way, because Proverbs is written this way, it says in Proverbs 1 that the whole book is to understand dark sentences. But if you read it, it's just all these nice little fluffy, Christianese, like, listen, the end of a thing is better than the beginning. Yeah, it starts off small, but in the end, we're all going to be blessed. And, the patient, just be patient, okay? Because the patient spirit is better than the proud in spirit, right? And he is risen. And they'll do all that gay stuff, right? And that's literally, it's so cringy, by the way. And people do this, and then they want to mock me and say I'm the devil for mocking them. That's not very Christ-like, and you're the devil, okay? Well, let me tell you what this is really about, by the way. So through the synonymous terms, the end of is a double bridle, by the way. So a thing is a thing and nothing. It's a reference to from Job when it talks about wisdom is the thing, but the thing is a thing and nothing, which is your person. Remember I said gifts is persons? We just read because you gift it. So a gift is a thing. What is a thing and a gift? Because you can gift that thing. You find out a thing is the heart. What is the heart? The heart is the trust. Because it's everything that's in your heart will be in the trust, which is a thing and a gift. Because everything's in the trust you give to your beneficiaries, which is your heirs after you. But what happens is you end up giving it away to some other master, and you give away all your rights, right? That's what this is. So when you gift, the gift is the heart and the gift is the thing. But when you give the heart away as a gift, you destroy your own person, your own heart. And then you become mad. So because now your wisdom goes away, because the wise man a man is wise if he's a man, but a man is mad if he's a person. Now you have oppression because the wise serpent men, they are using their authority to be a man, not knowing how this works, to make you mad, and they're oppressing you, and they're now you have to pay taxes. That's what all this is. So better is the end of a thing. What ends it? You take it back. Then the beginning, because the beginning is the end is the beginning. Why is the end the beginning? Because the beginning of the world is the end of the world, because it's about taking back a thing and nothing which you gifted. That was your heart. And that's how you be delivered from oppression, because you're delivered. Your livery and you get your reward. Your reward is your gift that you give back to yourself, because your ward and liveries is your rewarding and your delivering and changing your livery. And liveries and wards has to do with possession, of being who you're making a master and lord over you. When you grow up and you become a master and you've been tutored how to be your own governor and govern your own affairs, that is the gift. Now you can leave what's in your heart and your gift to your children. That's the end of a thing. But it's of. The end is also a thing. A thing is the end, and the end is the thing. It's not just the end and beginning as a timeline. You find out that the beginning and the end is actually the thing. Because the end, which is the trust, which is the heart, the beginning, the heart, and the end is all the same thing. Because you'll find out a thing is written inside the end. A thing is written inside the beginning. So it's the end of whatever thing you declared. The thing that you declared in there is supposed to be the gift that you wrote inside the heart, which ends someone's reign and begins your reign, meaning you are now beginning to make your days. And so that's called a good name. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Why would the day of death be better than the day of one's birth? Because the day of one's birth has to do with that name. A good name. Remember we talked about good, a good thing, good things. Deal courageously and deal with the good. The good is the end, and the beginning is the good. They call the trust itself the good. They call the trust the heart. They call the trust the beginning. They call the trust a gift and a thing and a name. Your trust is your Christian name. That's why it's not just, oh, I have a good name in the community. No, it's a good name is actually how you write your trust. They call that, for who knows what is good for man in this life. What is good for man is for that man to know he's a who, not a what. What is good is a good name. See how it's not in the train of thought, but it is in there? It's how that Bible is written. And I can do it over and over and over with this pattern. So the latter has to do with, and I'll just maybe say one more with this. Say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? For you do not inquire wisely concerning this. And, there's this movie, I can't remember which one it is, but he says, you're not asking the right questions. He goes, well, what is the right questions? And so this is what this is saying. That's where that comes from, that saying in the movies. So what is the cause that the former days were better than these? It's not about that the former days were better, because there's former days and there's latter days, and days can end, the end of a thing, and new ones can begin. This is called the changing of the times. When you change a time, someone has gained the time, and that means you swap out, you remove kings and set up kings, and that is why our government works every 2 to 4 years. You vote someone else in, but you're supposed to, which is a copy of the original thing, which you're supposed to elect everybody in. You elect someone to go in, and the old model's kind of a little bit changed up. But so, what is the better question then? What is the cause that the former days were better than these? It's not about the former days were better than these. It's what made those better days come to an end. Why did those better days end? Because you find out something else began. That is how former and latter work, okay? And all has to do with a good name or an evil name. What's an evil name? So glad you asked. It's your all caps name, okay? I have to say it just like that to beeline it. I may use one more. Yeah, I'll say this one because I have to solve this one quickly for you too. This is from Job. This is also in John. When shall I enter into my mother's womb a second time? He said, "Marvel, verily, verily, I say unto you, marvel not that I said you must be born again." Right? So that's what this comes. That all this stuff comes from here. It says, "As he came forth of his mother's womb," and that's a signal about Job 3. "Naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand." Then it goes on to say, and this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit hath he that hath labored for the wind? Basically, for face value, from a Pharisee to the simpletons that want to be spectators, that just want someone to teach, oh, yes, that sounds so great. Yes, I came. So if someone comes and takes all your stuff, and you're like, well, naked I came, and I'm going to leave this world with nothing. I'm going to die and leave nothing. And that's what they talk about. It's basically, if that's what you're working for, love money's the root of all evil. So basically, that's just laboring for the wind when you just, because if someone comes and takes it, then oh well. But then you're robbing your heirs after you. Because what this really means, as he came forth of his mother's womb, how you come forth has to do with that good name or evil name. That's how you're coming forth. And when you change your name, that's called the day of death, by the way. Than the day of one's birth. The death certificate and the birth certificate all is how you write your name. Meaning you can put to death this birth certificate. You can put to death by coming back from the dead. Okay, that's how that all works. It's all tied to your name. And so when you go naked, this is what the Revelation also, because of this, when you come forth, if your mother's womb is an evil name, you came from Babylon. This is not just about the tangible, your mom, actual mom. You're going to go back to Babylon naked because they're going to strip you. That means you're a debtor. That's what the revelation of Isaiah walking around naked was. Shall he return to go as he came? How did you come? Well, there's in all points as he came. So you have to know all points of that topic. That means there's more than one interpretation. All points has to do with all things. There's 8 interpretations to this. And so your mother's womb talks about Mother Babylon in the book of Galatians and Mother Jerusalem. That means Jerusalem and Babylon are on paper. You have to understand that's one of the points. And so even though you came out naked out of your mom's womb, that's how you're born, you also, when you gifted your person, it stripped you. It made you naked there. You just, on paper, you're naked because you let someone else, you gave everything, your clothing away. You find out your clothing or your garments is your trust. It's your covering. Kind of like an insurance coverage. The thing that's sure, a sure word is the trust. It's certain because you're the Lord. That's why, that's what made people fear the Lord. So shall he return to go as he came, or meaning also you're going to go back to Babylon naked and stripped because you gave it away at the birth. So at the beginning of the field, the beginning, which is the trust, is when you'll be taken away at the end. But if you redo your trust, and now you begin to operate and administer your own trust and become a minister yourself, you can now occupy and stay and you're left behind. They turned being taken away to heaven. Your Lord will come and take you away to heaven, and those that are left behind, like it was some bad thing if you're left behind. No, left behind meant you weren't going to be carried away by the debt collectors come take you. This is when you made someone else your Lord. They take you away to Babylon. That's how it ties in. The New Testament ties in with the Old Testament. They just changed the interpretation of it in the churches and made us all dumb and believe that we need to be taken away. And it's bad to be left behind. But being left behind means you are occupied. I'll prove it real quick just to say it's in Jeremiah 42. And it says, pray for us unto the Lord our God, even for all this. What do you want to pray about? For all this remnant. For we are left, but a few of many, as thine eyes do behold us. If you're left, you're the remnant. You want to be left behind. You want to be the remnant. You don't want to be the residue. If you're the residue, you are the res, and you owe what's due, and you are a residual income. Actually, let me just show you that real quick. And I'll just say it because this stuff is, where's the debt? Residue. Res means you're a thing. That's Latin for thing. That's when, a thing of nothing. That's a person. Res is anything goes inside your person, which is property. So your property or your chattel, and you're inside someone's trust, your res. So residue, inside residue is also side, which is you are a residual income for someone because you're going to keep continuing the same birth certificate on to your children's children, and you're going to keep, they're all going to pay taxes, and you keep a kingdom going. That's how it keep on going, right? That's called, inside that is the Ides of March. Residue, or Idu, is the Ides. That's the Ides is like the Ides of March. That's from Julius Caesar. That's when they killed him. They killed him on the freaking when everything was due. That's the 15th of the month. When the money came in, it was an offering unto Baal, but it's also when your stuff was due. That's when your residue. So not only because you're residue, you have dues or taxes you got to pay to the king. Right? That's all through your taxes, and that's what resides the Southwood based on the pyramid schemes, and that's all through the deeds, right? And so that's called the dew of the mountains. You're wet with the dew or showers of the mountains, and so because they put their authority on you, okay. So it's part of the flood. That's the bad side of the flood, okay. And so that's what residue is. You don't want to be residue because that's basically low status. You want to be a remnant. The ones that change their deeds up become remnant, and when you're the remnant, you are the ones that got out of Egypt, so to speak. Okay? So I can't stay too long on it because I have to get to, at least once you see the beginning of what was done with Joseph and also how Moses undid that. So I know we're touching on this stuff really quick, but when I say, okay, before I get there, this says right here, it says, not only are you naked, you go back in, it says, that's where the and is. As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor. And so it looks like this two things happen that are right next to each other, but really you're supposed to take the thing of nothing, and it's his, meaning it's yours, labor. And so your labor is what a man hath labored for. You in that laboring, your labor is to be able to take. That's how you come and go. And in that, when you take your thing and nothing, that's the thing that you show and declare, so they know they don't so when a Roman soldier or a police officer today tries to make you obey certain statutes that are and ordinances that are in their trust, you show that you're not of them. What do I have to do with you? Because you took nothing. You took the thing of nothing, and that's your labor. So whatever your labor has to do with, you get to keep all that. And it all comes down to here. So to take his portions, taking your labor, is the power. You get to eat your own. Eat of yourself. But if someone else, it says, if a man of whom God hath given riches and wealth and honor, so that he wants nothing for his soul of all that he desires, yet God gives him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eats. This is a vanity and evil disease. Or you can say, instead of a gift of God, it's an evil disease. You can say, basically, let me put it this way, because I have to sum it up so it doesn't get too. Your labor, your rent, your mortgage, that's your labor. You're going to sow and others going to reap. You're going to sow and others going to eat. You have not been given power to eat of your own. It's going to a stranger. And because the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. Because you have another master set over you. That's the scam of the mortgages. That's the scam of the rents. That's all the feudal system. And that's what they call it. That's what Isaiah says in chapter 2, says, woe to them that lay house to house and field to field. They call it the vineyard of Israel. But the same vineyard that has a bank set over it, where all those titles are divided, and you're just a keeper of the house, and they're the owners of the house, which is on their books. That's how this all tethered together. When you take all that stuff back, you can begin to form that same house to house and field to field in a commonwealth. That is binding up the breach. That's where you say, I'm trying to make ends meet. Yeah, because you got a breach. Your ends can't meet. You're short-circuited because there's a hole in the ship, because you got another master. There's a parasite feeding off of you. That's everything that's in here. I have to say it with layman's terms, what the Bible is saying, but it's hidden in these synonymous terms and in these stories that look like just moral stories but end up being riddles. Okay, so I want to get to real quick, just to wrap up, I want to go to Genesis 37:8. And begin to show you, just in the simple words, when you learn what this means, little hidden stuff. 37:8. This is when Joseph was getting a dream, right? And his brothers hated him for it. He was telling about his dream, about the sheaves they stood up and everything. And his brethren said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? That's actually how you reign and have dominion, is by the deeds. And it's like, this is a little hint, because they couldn't say it. They couldn't tell you the secrets. This is how they talk. Indeed, is how it's done. And it says, and they hated him yet more for his dreams and for his words. See, the words is tied to the dreams. This is what it talks about. In a dream, in a vision, God will speak to you, says, right? Yea, once. God speaks yea once, or speaks once, yea twice, but man perceives it not. So you don't perceive it unless someone teaches you. An interpreter is one among 1,000. Someone's got to teach you what this is. It talks about it's indeed that you actually, yes, it was indeed that they actually reigned over them, because they would have to change up their deeds, because they were going to starve to death, because they were going to have to change up their dominion, because this is what happened to him. And let me show you where that is. Let's see, 40, verse 15, I think it's there. It was indeed. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews. That's how you can be stolen too. That's what happened to us. We were stolen. We were lied to. It was through the deeds. Your deeds, remember I said, is your person is your deeds. That's your titles. It comes from your deeds. And so inside deed is Eid. Eid is Eid. That's the Ides of March, is the Eids. When you're talking about the holiday of Eids inside Iraq. So to de-Eid is to no longer be divided. Div-Id. The Ides of March is through, that's why they try to say, no, the Ides of March just means it's divided right in the middle of the month. It's like, well, they have to hide it in semantics. Like they actually, the Ides have to do with divided titles, where you have equitable title and they have legal title. They are the owners, you are the keeper, and you think, oh, I own my own home. No, you don't. If you own it, you wouldn't have to pay some lord some tax. No, you don't own it. You actually gave it away to a dead entity. You gave it away to the state. And the state is the state of a king, by the way. So, like Florida state is like you're supposed to build your estate and your state as a sovereign, but you give all that up, so they make this dead entity, this thing of nothing, and this dead entity over you, and you're less than nothing. Okay, so that's the mystery. I just gotta say it real quick. Let's see, Psalm 105. Losing my pages here. There was another. I know there was another one too, and it said like he was. Maybe it was probably in Psalm 105, but it said that he was sold. And you can follow the word sold. It's crazy. Okay, 17. Yeah, Psalm 105, 17. He sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant. There you go. He was sold. So, but when he was sold, he had to become a man again. See, he was sold. They sold his person because he was sold for as servant. That means they lowered him, and he had to basically be a trustee to someone else, you know, and basically gave up his paperwork. Is what they did. This is what's not talked about, but you don't just sell someone like, here, give me some money, here he is. No, they want a receipt, basically. They want to bill of sale, and that's through, they want a deed. It was in deed that they did it. So it's not just like, I'm going to give it, just a bill of sale is good enough. Like, no, they want the deeds to them. That's how it was done back in the day. You have to know that. So, and then it says, whose feet they hurt with fetters, he was laid in iron, until the time that his word came, the word of the Lord, tried him. The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, let him go free. How'd he go free? He made him Lord of his house and ruler of all his substance. All of a sudden, he was no longer, he's a servant, but he's not a servant. He raised his status and he made him a Lord. And, you know, to do what? To bind, and it's the ruler of his substance, to bind his princes at his pleasure and to teach his senators wisdom. Because he went into it, he became a lord of a different jurisdiction. And so he's in this status right here. You know what I mean? So, and then that all had to be undone. So let me just go to that real quick, and we'll end with these. Let's see, Exodus 9:16. Moses had to undo it. So 9:16 says, and in very deed for this cause have I raised thee up, for to show in you my power, and that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. Like if you read it for face value, think, well, you know, I've raised you up by my spiritual power, and about my name may be glorified throughout the earth, and this is the very action, right? But the hidden thing is, my name is my power, which is your Christian name, how you write it, and it has to be done in a deed. And the reason why it's in very deed, that comes from, that very comes from 2 Chronicles 6:18. But actually, before I get to that one, I may not go to that one. This is over here. And Pharaoh said, this is what Pharaoh said, I will let you go that you may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness, only you shall not go very far away and treat for me. Remember I talked about before that when you talk about something externally, when something's talked about external, they really mean something internal or in law. So this is also what Paul did when he was talking about traveling from place to place, from city to city. We're going to do this. I long to see your face. He was actually not just talking about externally going somewhere, because whenever you talk about something the internal, it actually flips to an external, and vice versa. When you talk about something external, it flips to an internal. And when it talks about like the wills and deeds and all the indeed and I will, it's all law. That's all law stuff. We already went over this before, so I'll just say this. The way you not go very far, he said, it basically is in very deed that I don't want you to go, because I want to keep you under me. All right, to go, the revelation of Ezekiel 44:10 is about near and far. You could be far from the Lord in that you transgress from the Lord, in that you transitioned out of the land and into the waters, and now you're far from God, because God is in the land, in the heavens. When you're in the land of the living, under the heavens, you are with God, and now you're before him. And there's something about getting filled with the Holy Spirit, more so if you know how to do everything in law. That's why law is spiritual. You get that God has to tether his spiritual kingdom through a man. The man has to do it in deed and in truth. You have to understand, you have to do it on paper, okay? It's not just enough. You say, oh, I'm God's, like, prove it. Okay, like you have to put it in law. Otherwise, let me put it this way. It doesn't matter what someone has said about the gospel. It has to be written down. It has to be on record. That's what they said. We bear record. How they bear record? They wrote it. That's why we have the Bible today. The Bible's a book of record. It's the book of life. It is a record, and it is a trust. And if they weren't, it doesn't matter what someone pass on word of mouth. Well, it does in that you have 2 or 3 witnesses, but it matters that those 2 or 3 witnesses right. That's what the Bible is. The Bible is a perfect example of all that. Okay? So, he said, I'll let you go, basically, externally, that you can sacrifice. Only you shall not go, because when you not go, has to do with the deeds. Very far. Why did he say very there? Because it had to do with in very deed. You're hiding. Moses was trying to write it when he wrote it. That very deed is tied to the very far, because your deeds make you near and far to the Lord. Okay? Because near and far has to do with jurisdiction. And this is another thing you have to know. Your deeds is how you are raised up. That's what gives you power. That's through the name. I can do this everywhere. I can keep doing this. As yet exalt thou thyself against my people. How is Pharaoh exalting himself? Because it's my people. It's not your people. It's my people, because it was in very deed. Those words are the few words. You have to know Lord, my, yours. When you say that to a police officer, it's super deep. It's the few words, jurisdiction. You have to know that, okay? We're going to wrap up. We'll do a couple more, and that should be it. 19:5. See, that one says, now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. May you say you're a peculiar people? That's why Paul wrote that from here, so you would connect it. How do you keep his covenant? Indeed. That's what you do. You have to write the deeds. You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. How do you do that? Indeed. Yeah, how did you bear us on eagle's wings? Okay, you get the sight of an eagle. There's a left wing and a right wing of how to do that operation. It's all in deeds. I had to let you know. And that's how I brought you. It's how I bear you. That's what I did. Okay? And that's how you keep my covenant. My covenant has to do with the deeds. You have to do it. Okay? It's simple, but that's what it means. It's a joke. You know what I mean? It's like, indeed. I didn't tell no one the secret. It's indeed. Yes, indeed. It's a hint. It's because they couldn't say it. Okay? I think I'll just use Isaiah 30 verse 2 as the last one. Then we'll end there. So far, it looks like we'll end there. Because I want to end on a high note, accelerated note where you guys all get it. Actually, this is really funny. It's, show the things that are to come hereafter, that we may know that you are gods. Well, gods are the things. And the things are like the things that are to come, like any sort of event. But also you have to show the things, the persons. that you are gods too. You can be a god in the sense of you are taking the position by taking back your thing and nothing, your person, and now you're in the position of what that god was in. That devil, you take that. He removes kings and sets up kings, but he removes that king and sets you in their place. You see what I'm saying? And that you may do good instead of that evil, because the good and evil is off the same thing and nothing, but you have to show it. That's how you declare. Okay, what's prophetic is also apostolic. It's right there. It's really funny. But I just want to show you that real quick. It's like that's the mystery of Isaiah. It's really freaking awesome. It's so smart. I have scripts in here too, guys. And it talks about, we're going to put all this stuff in movies. We're going to make awesome freaking movies of American state nationals and what they look like, and not this stupid sovereign citizen and making fun of making them look dumb like they did on January 6th through FBI. 30 verse 2. Oh, there we go. It says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit." You find out my spirit is the covering, is how you got to take counsel. You got to take it back. Your counsel is your trust. That becomes your covering. That's what covers you. It's what covers your butt, and that's called my spirit. It's not just the Holy Spirit. You find out my spirit is my heart, is the trust, because it's your actual human spirit is after the same pattern as the trust on paper. That they may add sin to sin. Here's how did they do that? They walk to go down into Egypt. See, you think that's physically, you shall not go far from me. You think it's about south, because Egypt is south of Israel, but you actually go down into Egypt by going into the waters. But you have to take, you end up, they took an evil counsel and they covered with the evil covering, and it wasn't of his spirit, it was of Egypt. And have not asked at my mouth, that's a whole nother revelation, to strengthen themselves, or they trust in themselves, in the strength of Pharaoh, or you're of Pharaoh, not of Israel, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. What is the shadow of Egypt? Of Egypt was of Pharaoh, which he was your king and your lord, and the shadow was the trust. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame. Why will it be your shame? Because you're going to go naked. That's why. Remember we talked about the debt collector's going to come take you. And the trust, see, the trust shall be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt, your confusion. Why is your confusion? Because you didn't know through capitalizing your name that you were giving your trust and building the shadow of Egypt, because it was a shadow government. That's how they did. It's like the shadow is the trust is the shadow. That's the shadow of Egypt, and they strengthen themselves. You strengthen Pharaoh basically, because now he can tell you go build his pyramids, and that's what it's done. So, but now what do you do to tear that down? Now go write it before them in a table and note it in a book. What kind of book? A book of life. That it may be for the time to come. What is the time to come? The time to come has to do with a book of life. The time has to do with the trust, because you change the times. The end of a thing and the beginning of a thing is the time to come, forever and ever. Why is it forever and ever? Because it's perpetual. It's a trust. It's forever and ever. Because when you get it to an ever, that's your son, and your son will grow up and give it to his son. That's why it's an ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and it goes on forever. And that's the mystery. So for the Egyptians shall help in vain and to no purpose. If it's in vain, it is no purpose, no intention. Therefore have I cried concerning this. Their strength is to sit still. And so what you find out what this is, your purpose has to be written in vain, and you find out the vain is called the thing of nothing. For a thing of nothing, it's right over here. A thing of nothing is in vain. It's a vain thing. It's a vain thing, they called it, right? But you err in spirit. You're in error in spirit when you write it with in all caps. That's all hidden in here. I can't just go over it all right now because it's already in there, but you find out they call it in a corner, is in vain, in a bridle, and that's in a witch pitch. And that's setting us up for the next series. I'm going to show you, you have to watch the Double Bridles and Dark Sentences playlist. If you're saying to yourself, like, there is no dark sentences in the Bible, well, why did Solomon say it in chapter 1? Why did he say it? It said to understand dark sentences and a riddle. You know what I mean? A dark sentence is a riddle or a parable. Parable's not just a story. Parable can be a riddle. And that's why they say, rid me of this, rid me of that. To rid is a bridle. Inside bridle is riddle. That's why you have to know the art of grammar, the tongues, how they change. And you have to know the dialects, because a dial is it's a wheel in which there's variations called the shadow of turning. It's in the book of James. And so all these parts are in every book and gives you a different piece so that you can begin to spin and unspin lies so that you can find out who's the devil. If you don't know this stuff, you are really deceived and you got someone tricking the crap out of you. You're probably in a fallen state, you're a pauper, you own nothing, and you're probably just trying to make everything about a moral compass. And the thing is, the hypocrisy of it all is you say that you can't be perfect. You know what I mean? People say they can't be perfect, and so basically you preach a moral compass and never achieve what you're actually set out trying to preach on. You just say, well, let's just be rescued. But yet you're going to continue building the devil's kingdom, just worrying about being saved from hell. You're going to continue to use that evil dollar, borrow from banks, rent some master, have a mortgage, death grip, right? And you can continue to just say, oh, the devil's God's world. And so you bless the devil, I guess. But go and preach that, moral compass. You know what I mean? This is why they call it the hope of a hypocrite. That's why Jesus called them all hypocrites. You guys have just missed it. And this is all the hidden stuff you got to know. You have to know how the devil talks. You have to know how he writes up contracts. You have to know where you're deceived. So you become a sovereign, a king, and a lord. You can't just say, we're kings and priests because Revelation said so. Like, okay, show me how your priesthood works. Show me you're going to take someone from dark to light. Show me you're going to convert someone from being blind to where you open their eyes. Show me that you healed someone's broken heart. Show me that you've raised the dead. Show me, and I'll show you my works. You know what I mean? I'll show you in all points. You know what I mean? I'm ready to debate anyone that is wise in their own eyes. Because although I may sound cocky, I'm confident because I know who I am. I know whose I am. I know what he has shown me. And all this stuff comes back full circle. And I need everyone to get on board with this because if you're not, it's for your sake. It's for your sake that you know what this is because you are going to be carried away. You understand that you're going to go to Babylon. And they made Babylon here, so that's why they made the FEMA camps. You know what I mean? That's what all that's for. But God makes the rain on the just and the unjust, so thank God that there is a plan to where they're going to rescue us. You know what I mean? And if you haven't already saved yourself, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. That's what I did. I changed my status and changed my name. And I'm a Lord in my own name. You know what I mean? So you got to do the same thing. That's where it starts. That's what makes an evangelist an evangelist. That's part of it. You know what I mean? Not just getting people saved from hell. You got to get them saved from their debts. Okay? All right. I think we'll end right there. It's a lot. And we'll get ready for that next playlist. Join me in the future here soon with the Symphony of All Things coming soon.
Nice, AJ. Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.